Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include Fortnite stealing Among Us, the Diablo 2 Resurrected beta fallout, the launch of a new comprehensive Diablo 2 resource website, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website Riker.com using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Watch how easily I updated my Diablo 3 pages with my latest video content for Season 24. Just a few intuitive clicks. No knowledge of coding required, absolutely painless. I've never had an easier time making a professional looking website. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. And Squarespace is currently offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. In our first quick story, this week saw the announcement of Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which will launch on the game's 10th anniversary on November 11th on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, and PC. Now, the Anniversary Edition includes the game's Special Edition, plus over 500 curated Creation Club mods. And if you already own the Special Edition, this will be a free upgrade. Now, one of the new features that comes with the extra content, for instance, is fishing. Given the number of times Bethesda has released Skyrim, it would honestly be more surprising if they did not release a new edition on the game's 10th anniversary. One of my first YouTube videos was actually a showcase of a hilarious Skyrim bug that I'm really sad was patched out of the game. But back when Skyrim released, the giants would pummel you into the stratosphere. In other news, some of the developers of Among Us are none too pleased with Epoch after seeing the latest game mode added to Fortnite. Called Imposters Mode, it sees up to 10 players join a match and try to complete various objectives on a map, while two secret saboteurs among them, called Imposters, try to kill them. It plays out pretty much exactly like Among Us. And yes, Among Us isn't the first social deduction game. Mafia, Werewolf, Town of Salem, you name it, there's been plenty over the years. Among Us introduced specific mechanics that did shake up the formula, and Fortnite's Imposters mode basically copies those mechanics almost to the letter. Among Us community manager Victoria Tran said on Twitter, quote, "It would have been really cool to collab. Like, game mechanics fine, those shouldn't be gatekept, but at the very least, even different themes or terminology makes things more interesting." Programmer Adriel Wallach shared the famous comic about appropriating content and said, quote, "Just feeling pretty bummed today. Everything in the world was already feeling insurmountable, so this was just another reminder of how tiny we all really are." As a reminder, Among Us is an indie game originally created by just 3 developers. And following the game's meteoric success, that team grew to a whopping 5 people. Now, Epic has done official collaborations with Marvel via the Avengers and other properties, the NFL, John Wick, Stranger Things, DC Comics, Star Wars, and countless others. But I guess the little dev team was deemed too unimportant to reach out to for an official collab. Ouch. If it's any consolation, I've mostly heard that Fortnite's Imposters is a worse version of Among Us. In other news, as a follow-up to a story we previously covered, Nintendo has obtained a permanent injunction against the owner of a ROM site. Now, I know a lot of people see ROM site owners as sort of heroes, preservers of old games that you can't play anymore, and without taking anything away from that, the fact is that this particular fellow was also hosting ROMs for modern Switch games, and he was directly profiting from them. Not just by running ads on his site, but by direct sales. And if you remember, this is the same guy who decided to fight Nintendo in court instead of just give in to their demands. and represent himself in court against Nintendo's army of legal experts. Shockingly, he lost. But following that, it seems he didn't quite learn his lesson because he started to publicly hint that he would bring his site back, and it's at that point that Nintendo sought the injunction and it was eventually granted. Now he has a permanent injunction ordered against him, denying him to ever again copy, distribute, sell, or even play unauthorized copies of Nintendo games. Well done. In other news, World of Warships has managed to piss off its community so much that a bunch of content creators for the game have left the game's official community contributor program. This comes after the devs introduced the ability for players to acquire a highly sought-after ship, which they originally said would be purchasable with in-game currency, but when they actually implemented it, it could only be acquired via loot boxes. Now, one of the creators that's quitting, the mighty Jingles, who has over 600,000 YouTube subscribers, issued a statement declaring that he is quitting, stating reasons that include a toxic relationship with developer Wargaming. And, quote, "It hasn't been any one thing, but a continued demonstration of the contempt in which Wargaming holds for this program. The increasingly aggressive monetization and implementation of gambling mechanics into a game marketed to children as young as the age of 7, and numerous other factors." World of Warships Twitch streamer Mr. Gibbons said in his resignation, quote, "Marketing that ship to veterans through gamble mechanics seems to me to be exploitative and immoral." Wargaming responded in its official forum, stating, quote, "We understand that there are several causes that have led us to this situation, and that we have upset and disappointed many of our community contributors and players." The post went on to state actions the company will take to try to remedy the situation, including looking into adding an alternative way to obtain this specific ship. We've already heard EA call loot boxes surprise mechanics. I guess the only thing worse is surprise mechanics. In some super quick last Epoch news, we got a teaser for the upcoming Sands of Majasa update, slated to launch on September 3rd. It's going to be the biggest update to the game in quite a while, so if it's been some time since you've last played, this will be the perfect time to dive in and see what's new. In quick Lost Ark news, the game hit a new milestone after the launch of the Sorcerer's class on August 11th. Concurrent users have now exceeded 240,000, new record. And to clarify, this is just on the Korean servers. As we await the Western launch of the game later this year, fans are wondering, hey, when's beta gonna hit? For a while we were thinking August, but there's only so many days left in August now. So when presented with a time frame between, quote, next month all the way to November, the official Lost Ark Twitter account stated, quote, "The closed beta will start closer towards the beginning of that range." So it's not much, but hey, it's something. Onto Diablo news. Starting briefly with Diablo 4, a new job posting for a senior narrative designer has been spotted. As per the job description, quote, "You will work with our quest designers on copywriting, editing of dialogue scripts, and keeping consistency with character and tone. You will facilitate communication of our gameplay goals to voice actors in the recording sessions. You will work with your teammates, the quest designers, and sound designers to ensure all assets are consistently meeting the high-quality bar Blizzard is known for." Note that if Diablo 4 will be a game that receives ongoing content, they will need people like this to remain on the team to keep producing that content. In quick Diablo 3 news, former Diablo 3 producer Nathan Lutzak recently answered questions on Reddit about the monsters of Diablo 3, providing some wonderful behind-the-scenes insights. Lutzak, after whom the in-game item loot socks are named, was a producer on D3 from 2005 to 2014, managing many different teams during that time. I'd like to make a full video covering this actually, but if in the meantime you want to read his answers for yourself, I'll link that in the comments. Onto Diablo 2 Resurrected news. Last weekend saw the closed beta, and this weekend the open beta is running, which anyone can participate in, so if you're watching this and it's still the weekend, jump in now while you still can. Beta ends early Monday. Now my quick thoughts on last week's beta, because while you're watching this during the time of the open beta, this is being recorded before I have played the open beta. Man, did it feel great having 8 players in a game again. I didn't expect to get hit with those nostalgic vibes over a simple player count. I've got footage from my streams of 2 playthroughs of the content, one on the Druid, one on the Paladin. You can check that out on YouTube. I also have from the previous alpha, Barbarian, Sorceress, and Amazon playthroughs. This is of Act 1 and Act 2, that's the content available. Overall, though, I do have to say the experience of beta was far buggier than in the alpha, which was just incredibly smooth and polished. Now, it is expected that when you take a game to multiplayer, you're going to have a greater chance of introducing instability and bugs, but I can honestly say that I didn't expect this many issues. My game crashed multiple times while playing. I had consistent 120 plus millisecond ping, which it's not the end of the world, but it's enough to have a noticeable delay. It's the kind of ping I expect when I'm connecting to a European server. I was also getting frequent rubber banding. Now that said, these issues weren't severe enough to negatively impact my fun, but with the game's launch being just 1 month away, I do worry about how much the devs will have to crunch to resolve all these issues. Some common player complaints I've seen include Act 2 doorways not being visible enough on the minimap, which I 100% agree with, because trying to find those damn doorways was like playing Where's Waldo, which is not what you want with a map UI element that should have instant readability. That said, it should be a simple enough fix, so not terribly worried there. But another issue, apparently on console, players were not able to name their games the way we can on PC. And this is a crucial feature to Diablo 2's multiplayer scene, because it's how players coordinated. You name your game, bail runs or PvP or whatever activity it is you wanted to do. Without this, it's difficult to imagine how a multiplayer scene could even exist. I've also seen some players who are loving the Diablo 3 style hotbar the game gets when you plug in a controller. I see them requesting to have that option even for mouse and keyboard. Because currently, if you want to use a skill or you want to change to a skill, you have to hit one key to change to the skill to select it, and then another key to activate it. So it's 2 key presses to change to and use a skill, as opposed to with the hotbar, you're just 1 button press away from activating a skill. Now, one minor annoyance that I had, which is shared with others, was the inability to hit tab to swap between game name and password in the lobby. You type in a game name, you hit normally, and you would hit tab, it would go to the password field. Here you have to actually go and click. It's a tiny UX thing, but it feels like a no-brainer. It's almost as though, because game lobbies haven't been a thing now for the longest time, modern game devs don't know how to make lobbies anymore. Other quality of life improvements I've seen suggested for the lobbies includes automatically incrementing game names when you create a new game. Because what was common in the past is that you would create a game called Fun Bail Runs 001. And when that bail run was done, you would then exit game, create a new game called Fun Bail Runs 002. And everyone who was in your game would know, once they pop out of game, they type in Fun Bail Runs 002, and they join in for that next round. There are D2 mods currently that will automatically increment the game name for you. So when you pop out of Fun Bail Runs 001, it'll automatically type in for you Fun Bail Runs 002. So if mods can do it, this should be an easy enough implementation into D2R. Now the good news in all this, however, is the pace at which the devs have been patching things. The closed beta lasted only a couple of days, and already towards the end of it, the devs released a patch. Diablo franchise executive producer Rod Ferguson confirmed on Twitter, quote, "We patched before early access ended, and we'll patch again before open starts, as well as made a bunch of server-side fixes." Another thing some players noticed was that ultra-widescreen support, which was available in the alpha, seems to have been nerfed, let's say, with a vignette. Some people thought that ultra-wide support wasn't even in there, but what you clearly see is that a sort of shadowy vignette was added on the sides to bring in that ultra-wide. And this, I believe, is because back during alpha, we raised the concern that ultra-wide players had a mechanical advantage over other players for both PvP and PvE purposes, allowing them to target further, and thus, for instance, being able to teleport further in a single use of teleport. A number of different solutions were proposed here, and it seems that these vignettes are Blizzard's way of addressing the concerns. and Rod confirmed on Twitter that the addition of the vignettes was intentional and not a bug, as some were wondering. Quote, "Ultra-wide support wasn't removed. To be clear, a vignette was added. We'll write a post explaining why, probably after beta." We also got a blog post with some terrific news. Quote, "Over the last week, we've seen much speculation and reactions from the community around the subject of ladder play releasing post-launch. We wanted to take this opportunity to share that ladder-only rune words, unique items, and Herodra Cube recipes that were once restricted to ladder rank play will now, for the first time, be included in non-ladder multiplayer and single-player play. Furthermore, single-player will now also include access to the Pandemonium event and Uber Diablo content." This basically means that it doesn't matter that ladder won't launch on day one. You'll have access to all ladder content anyway, be it in single player or multiplayer. And the devs confirmed that the reason that ladder won't be launching on day one was to ensure that when it does launch, that launch will be as smooth as possible. Quote, "To mitigate server impact and protect server stability of the game during the launch window, we plan to have ladder rankings and listings to be implemented shortly after launch. This will enable players to have a fair chance to partake in the race that comes with the first season's ladder for Diablo 2 Resurrected, and not run into any possible launch window stability issues that could impede that experience. Once we have a more precise gauge on this front, we'll notify the community of the exact date and time in September." And for our last bit of news, Maxroll has launched the Diablo 2 Resurrected branch of their website. While the original plan was to launch in September, the team decided to have an early access launch so that players jumping into the open beta can already benefit from the guides and tools that have been built. Now, full disclosure, I am a member of Maxroll's Diablo 3 team, but I strongly believe it's been an invaluable resource for the Diablo 3 community, and I believe it now will also be for the Diablo 2 community. On the Maxroll Diablo 2 website, you'll be able to find a whole host of resources, guides, tier lists on the best builds for all manner of different activities, whether you're looking for the best speedrunning builds, the best builds for Pindle runs, Maxroll will have you covered. You can filter your tier list by class if you want to play Amazon. You can see what are the best Amazon builds, Necro, what are the best Necro builds, and then you can click straight through to a build guide for that build. This will walk you through and give you all the information that you need to rock the build, to build up the build, what items, what gear, what follower, and it's all built on the back of the robust new Diablo 2 planner. If you know what the D3 planner is, you know it's been an invaluable resource in the community now for years. Well, now the creator has built the D2 planner, where you can go full on in-depth if you want to into planning, building, calculating the character that you want to build. This system is so robust. There's a separate video just explaining fully how it all works. And then there's a number of different resources on how different game mechanics work. Guides on mercenaries, drop calculators, gamble calculators. We'll have a walkthrough of the full campaign. Now, not everything is in there currently. This is early access. They're still looking for feedback, which you can deliver on the Maxroll Discord. But by the time D2R launches on September 23rd, all this will be in there. And all these guys are built by a team of some of the top competitive Diablo 2 players out there. We got people who are speedrunners, PvP experts, you name it. Most of these guys have world records, world firsts. They've completed tremendous achievements like the Holy Grail. And yes, that is Senpai something over here, the creator of the popular Project Diablo 2 mod, because Maxroll will also have support for Project Diablo 2. You can access the site by either going to d2.maxroll.gg or just going to maxroll.gg and from there selecting the game. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video, in which we discuss why we believe the Diablo 2 Resurrected modding scene may be dead on arrival. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. As a reminder, we're currently doing our yearly Patreon banner, so if you want to get your name on that banner over there, which will be selling in the merch shop. You have until the end of August to be a Patreon supporter, even at the $1 tier. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.